welcome to part 3. Is grace conditional or unconditional? That's part 3 of our Bible study on the grace and mercy of God. Religious folks disagree about whether grace is received conditionally or unconditionally. Conditional grace means that in order to receive forgiveness and in order to continue to receive the blessings that result from it, there are certain things a person must do. Whether or not one receives grace depends on his individual choice, how he acts, thinks, speaks, etc. Unconditional grace means that forgiveness and resulting blessings are granted to individuals regardless of their choice or conduct. God grants them grace entirely on his own determination without consideration of their will, desires, or actions. So let's discuss a few scriptures explaining that or going along with that. Section 8, general examples of conditional grace. People often confuse conditional blessing with merited blessing. So we cannot earn forgiveness, they conclude there can be no condition. They say it is a denial of grace to say one must do anything to receive forgiveness. But the Bible contains many examples of people who received God's blessings by grace, yet they had to meet conditions. Those who met the conditions received the blessings. Had they failed to meet the conditions, they would not receive the blessing. Nevertheless, meeting the conditions did not earn the blessings, so it was still a matter of grace. Example, the fall of Jericho, Joshua 6, 1 through 20. God said he had given Jericho to Israel. Some say salvation is a gift, so we can do nothing to receive it. But Jericho was also a gift. Did they have to do anything to receive it? To receive the gift, the people had to march around the city once each day for 6 days, and 7 times on the 7th day, blow horns and shout. When they did so, the walls fell. Consider some questions. Was this a favor from God? Yes, it was his gift. Did marching, etc. earn the gift? No, marching does not merit the destruction of a walled city. This was unmerited favor, a blessing they did not earn, hence they received it by grace. But were there conditions the people had to meet to receive the gift? Yes, it was. Would they have received it if they had not met the conditions? No, hence conditional grace. Hebrews 11:30. This very example illustrates the kind of faith we need to please God and be saved under the gospel system of grace. Just as Israel's faith required obedience in order to receive God's gift by grace, so our faith requires obedience in order to receive the gift of salvation by grace. But it is still grace because the conditions do not earn the gift. Alright, the cure of Naaman, 2 Kings 5, 9 through 14. Elisha told Naaman to dip 7 times in Jordan and his leprosy would be cured. Naaman eventually did as he was told and was cured. Was this a favor from God? Yes. Did dipping earn the gift? No. Dipping 7 times in any river would not deserve the removal of leprosy. This was unmerited favor, hence grace. But were their conditions Naaman had to meet to receive the gift? Yes. Would he have received it if he had not met the condition? No. Hence conditional grace. Grace can be conditional. The fact a person must do something does not necessarily contradict the concept of grace. Specifically, if dipping in water can be a condition for removing leprosy, yet it is still a gift by grace, then why can't dipping in water, the baptism, likewise be a condition for removing of sin? Yet it is still a gift by grace. Gideon's defeat of the Midianites, Judges 7, 1 through 22. With only 300 men, Gideon defeated an innumerable host of Midianites. Was this favor from God? Yes, God said he saved Israel. Did Israel earn the blessing? No. They held torches, blew trumpets, and shouted, but this would not deserve the defeat of such an army. This was unmerited favor, hence grace. But were there conditions Israel had to meet to receive the gift? Yes. They had to surround the enemy, hold torches, blow trumpets, and shout. Would they have received it if they had not met the condition? No. Hence, conditional grace. God deliberately arranged this so the people could not claim glory for themselves, saying their own hand had saved them. Yet, there were still conditions they had to meet. So, Noah's salvation from the flood, Genesis chapter 6. Was Noah saved by grace? Yes. He found grace in the eyes of the Lord, unmerited favor. Note, Proverbs 3:24 uses the same word for grace. But that verse is quoted in James 4:6, where the New Testament word for grace is used to translate it. Did Noah have to do anything to be saved by grace? Yes. He built the ark and did all that God commanded. Would he have been saved if he had not built the ark? No, hence conditional grace. Again, Hebrews 11:7, this very example is cited to teach us how we are saved from sin by faith. The Old Testament example illustrates New Testament salvation by grace through faith. Both require meeting conditions. Examples of conditional grace in everyday life. A radio announcer offers a valuable prize to the seventh person to call in. This is a favor or a gift not earned, but condition must be met to receive it. A person will grants $1 million to an heir provided he is married, lives in a certain place, or meets some other requirement. A donor gives $1 million to a college if it names a building after him. Grace can be conditional. The fact one must do something to receive a gift does not mean he earns it and does not disprove it is a gift by grace. Section B, the universal nature of the New Testament grace. We have proved that grace can be conditional. The existence of conditions does not eliminate grace. Consider now New Testament grace, and specifically the grace by which God saves or forgives men of their sins. Is that grace conditional or not? Note first the universal nature of grace. For the grace of God that brings salvation has appeared to all men, Titus 2:11. God has mercy on all, just as many as were in bondage to sin, Romans 11:32. By the grace of God, Jesus tasted death for everyone. God wants all to be saved, so Jesus died for all. Hebrews 2:9, 1 Timothy 2:4-6. John 3:16, 2 Peter 3:9, Mark 16:15 and 16. God is no respecter of person, Romans 2:11. Ain't God great? Yes, He is. You see, you can't earn your way. Observation. This fact destroys Calvinistic, unconditional election, and limited atonement. Strict Calvinism denies that God's grace is truly available to all, or that Jesus truly died for all. It says Jesus' death offers saving grace only to those who God unconditionally chose before the world began. All others are lost and cannot receive grace. But the above passages contradict this view by proving that God's grace is extended to all, and Jesus died for all. The Calvinistic view of grace makes God a respecter of person by saying that grace and the benefits of Jesus' death are extended only to a few regardless of their choice or conduct. Further, these verses leave only two choices. If God's grace is unconditional, then all people will be saved. Since His grace extends to all, this is universalism, but it contradicts passages showing many will be lost. The only other alternative is that salvation by grace is received conditionally. It is offered to all, but each individual must choose whether or not he will meet the conditions. Hence, God is no respecter of persons, for He offers salvation to all, yet many will be lost because they refuse to meet the condition. The only way to harmonize the Bible teaching that God's grace is for all, and that God is not a respecter of person with the fact that many will be lost, is to recognize that grace is conditional. Now consider Bible examples that confirm